address, on to welcoming our very first virtual speaker, which is Rachel Green from the Careers and Enterprise Company, who's going to be talking about careers in Ofsted. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We really hope that you get the most from the day, and it's my absolute pleasure to hand over now to Rachel Green from the Careers and Enterprise Company.
Hopefully I've unmuted myself and you can hear me, but I can't see where to put my camera back on, so I shall try. I've got a tiny little screen here in front of me, so if you can help me by putting my camera on, that would be great. Now I've shared my screen, I can't see it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can see your screen perfectly, Rachel.
Oh, brilliant. That's great.
Yeah, and it's just, if there is, you might be able to see the video at the bottom where you can just select that to go back on. If not, we're absolutely, yeah, that's perfect. Perfect.
Thank you, John. Hi, thank you for that. As you may know, my name's Rachel Green, and I work as an education manager for the Careers and Enterprise Company. Prior to that, I was working as a careers lead in south of Lincolnshire, and before that, head teacher at a primary school and working at secondary schools, linking businesses in with education. So at the Careers and Enterprise Company, our real mission is to prepare and inspire young people for the fast-changing world of work. And the role of the Careers and Enterprise Company, ideally, is to link schools and colleges with employers and to help them to deliver the world-class career support that we want for all of our young people. We do this in several ways. One, by building those networks, linking schools and colleges to employers, and working through our Enterprise Advisor network and with careers hubs. So a lot of you may well be working with our enterprise coordinators in Lincolnshire, and hopefully that's seeing some great success for you. We also provide training, resources and support for careers leaders in schools and colleges, and we have both free online and funded face-to-face training available to support the development of exceptional practice in schools and colleges. And finally, through the supporting the implementation of best practice as a standard for career support through the Gatsby benchmarks with tools and targeted funding. And our huge range of resources are constantly being added to with the sole purpose of supporting careers leads to develop that high quality careers education for our young people. And as you know, right now, careers education has never been more important. The fast changing world of work puts an ever greater demand on all of us to support young people in making that successful transition from education to employment and helping them to identify and choose careers opportunities that are right for them. And this is even more important for those disadvantaged or vulnerable students who seem to be hit even more so by the pandemic at the moment. And careers education has that vital role to play in levelling that playing field. The short, the medium and the long-term impact of the pandemic on our young people is potentially enormous, and careers education obviously needs to play a central role. But what about Ofsted's view on careers right now? Before the pandemic, Ofsted reported a significant improvement in careers education nationally, and the focus on the personal development aspect of the new education inspection framework had certainly helped to keep this aspect of young people's learning really high on the agenda. But with official Ofsted inspections halted until at least January 2021, what does this mean for careers education? Well, from our conversations with Ofsted, this broader support for young people is still absolutely key. So between now and at least December, Ofsted are making the interim visits, which, as you know, involve professional conversations with senior leaders. And Ofsted states that the interim visits are to help learners, parents, employers and government understand how providers are meeting the needs of students and apprentices in this period, including learners with high needs and those with special educational needs and disabilities. As you're probably aware, these visits won't be graded, but there will be a letter sent to the school as a result, and there will be a publication of the outcomes of the visits in a brief report to share what steps are being taken to enable learners to resume a full programme of educational training. And the findings from September's visits are available now and are linked to from this slide. The visits generally focus on pedagogy, curriculum, and safeguarding. And you can see the points on the slide there. All of the feedback that we've had from schools and colleges that we've spoken to who've gone through this interim visit has been really, really positive, actually. There's a real feeling that Ofsted have actually listened to the impact of the current situation on teaching and learning for young people. One worrying thing that came through in the September report that you might want to have a look at is that schools are reporting an increased number of parents electing to home educate their children. And I think that's just something we need to be very, very aware of and mindful of, how we can still continue to support those young people not within traditional education. So the professional conversations from a careers perspective in these interim visits has really focused around these questions from what we've been hearing. How prepared was the school during lockdown? How prepared are they for future online learning? What interventions did year 11 or year 13 have during lockdown to prevent them from becoming NEET, not in education, employment or training? And what's the current provision for year 11 or year 13 to prevent them from becoming NEET this year? And what alternative ways are the schools or colleges looking for the experience of the workplace? So to feel prepared for these sorts of conversations, it's important that careers leaders keep their senior leaders and governors informed on things like transition data, preparation for different pathways, and the support and guidance available for particular cohorts of students. Transitions is really a very, very hot topic with Ofsted at the moment. How are students being enabled to make informed choices? And another key area of focus from what we're hearing is rightly around those students at disadvantage, as the pandemic appears to be widening that gap. So it's really important for careers leaders to consider how careers is supporting the bridging of that gap. So how about when Ofsted visits return to normal, whenever that may be? At the moment, we're looking at January 2021. What should careers leaders be doing to best equip themselves to shine? Well, as you know, the major difference under the new framework is that triangulation approach, where Ofsted will look for evidence of the application of the careers policy and programme. Is what they see on the website and what they hear from senior leaders and careers leaders actually reflected in what they see and hear as they spend time in the school or college? So the new education inspection framework raises the importance of a whole school or college approach to careers and the need for it to be fully embedded in the development plans and vision statements of a school or college. It's even more important the intent behind the careers education and personal development programmes are highly visible and understood by all stakeholders. So for me, benchmark 1 is really crucial in all 4 judgment areas in the new framework. We do have a link at the bottom of this slide to some benchmark 1 webinars that might be interesting to you if this is something that you feel you need a little bit of support developing further. So within the new Ofsted inspection framework, the quality of education is still the largest area that's looked at. The careers programme, it states, should be coherently planned and sequenced towards cumulatively sufficient knowledge and skills for future learning and employment. So essentially, this is asking the question, is this school or college doing the right thing for all their learners? Is your careers plan based on what's right for your cohorts and right for your cohorts right now in the current situation that we're in? How about the curriculum and how does careers education support the development of young people through that curriculum? Inspectors are really asked to look at impact, i.e. that the learners are ready for their next stage of education, employment or training. So the curriculum must show evidence of progress towards intended endpoints in terms of both knowledge and skills development. So consider, is what's on offer high quality with clear intent? How do you know? How are you measuring outcomes and impact? Does the offer bridge the gap of social disadvantage and cultural capital? The key is that at each stage of education, the provider prepares all learners for future success in their next steps, both in terms of curriculum knowledge and life choices. So it's really not about just ticking those boxes, but the quality of offer to each and every young person. Behaviours and attitudes. What is the whole school priority linked to behaviour and attitudes? Does your school or college vision statement speak to this judgment area, as many do? And how does your work contribute to the delivery of this statement? How does your careers programme enable learners to develop that enhanced positive attitude to learning? And how do you know it's having an impact? The Motivated to Achieve research and the Future Skills questionnaire available on our website may help to guide you on thinking of about the measurement of that impact. Following on from behaviours and attitudes, how does the school support the development of a student's character? How can the school demonstrate that at each stage of education, the provider prepares learners for future success? So at each point or key stage, what are the key careers learning outcomes? What does the careers leader need their young people to know, understand, and be able to do at each level? And how is this communicated to staff? What happens beyond the curriculum? Does the careers programme support the curriculum beyond the academic, and how can you evidence that? How does it support learners' broader development? Leadership and management, for me, again, really speaks to benchmark 1. Having a clear vision for the careers programme that's aligned with school or college priorities is not only key for driving the agenda forward, but it also enables governors, senior and middle leaders to speak knowledgeably about how careers education fits. Ofsted really want to be sure that you've truly considered your intent and measured your impact, which is why today's conference is so important. Can you clearly explain why your curriculum, including the careers programme, has been designed in the way that it has? Why things are taught or explored in a particular order? How do you know the impact your work is having? And how does feedback shape future developments? Well, one way to clearly show the progressive nature of your careers programme to all stakeholders, including Ofsted, is through a visual representation of each student's journey. This editable template enables you to clearly show on one page the vision for careers education with clearly identified learning outcomes for each year group. This helps all staff to clearly articulate the careers learning outcomes for each year group and helps them to understand the role they play in careers education. This version, along with one specifically for SEND schools, for middle schools and for post-16 education, are all available on our website. Benchmark 4 is perhaps the best way, particularly in our current circumstances, that we can ensure that each and every young person has access to careers education. With drop-down days and face-to-face encounters being a bit more challenging this year, embedding careers into the curriculum is of even greater importance for Ofsted, but more importantly, the young people that we work with. Now, I absolutely recognise the challenges that are faced at the moment in terms of persuading staff that there's even time in the curriculum when we're trying to catch up on everything that's been missed. But actually, we've devised this new model to support thinking on Benchmark 4 with 3 very different approaches, and this accompanying guide, which is filled with resources and support to help with that. I'll briefly look at 2 of the 3 approaches now, but I would recommend that you access the recording of the Benchmark 4 webinars that we led recently, and that will be available on our website. And the first of those approaches is called the foundation approach. And this is actually something that could be implemented very easily in terms of the staff content. They wouldn't have to do anything to change what they're doing that's absolutely drastic. The work, unfortunately, does sit with the careers leader on this one, as it always seems to. But we really advocate that all careers leaders ensure that this foundation approach is there to careers in the curriculum. And the 2 key pillars of this approach are that the careers leader has defined careers by having that progressive careers programme with those learning outcomes clearly defined in a language that demystifies careers and makes it everyone's business. I think a lot of teaching staff are scared by that word careers and don't really understand that actually what they're doing already contributes very much towards careers education. So this approach really supports the careers leader in being part of the solution to school or college priority areas, and to also support positive student outcomes. If you're able to articulate that program, which is sequenced towards growing knowledge and skills, then that is part of the solution already. So in this model, all subject teachers, all they're doing is highlighting the relevance of subjects to careers, that relationship between subjects to future jobs and skills. And that should be clearly outlined in lessons. And then students are supported to understand potential pathways from this subject. Ofsted really want to see an entitlement for each and every student. So this foundation level is key and doesn't actually require any employer engagement at all to be successful. It's literally around helping our staff to understand that they can explain the relationship between their subject and future jobs and skills. So the next approach that we've got in this is benchmark 4 approach is called careers across the curriculum. And this approach really is Ofsted perfection. In this approach, which builds on that foundation approach, staff are mobilised by the careers leader to be able to support the delivery of careers learning outcomes as part of their curriculum lessons. So this involves staff understanding the visions, aim and learning outcomes of a careers programme and how it contributes to student outcomes and the school or college priorities, again through that strategic careers plan. It includes helping staff to understand LMI and clearly defined messaging around careers. Further to just highlighting the relevance of subjects to careers, careers learning outcomes are integrated with curriculum learning outcomes and resources can be developed with employers' input. Subject teachers may also be working independently with employers to deliver curriculum learning outcomes with reference to the world of work. So an audit of what is already happening in your institution is key. Do teaching staff realise that they're actually supporting the careers programme? Now, I recognise I can't go through this whole model with you in the 20-minute session that I have with you today, so I really would encourage you to have a look at the resource, the modelling tool, which has a lot of resource and support in it, but also to have a look at, as I said, at our benchmark 4 webinars, which will go through this in a lot more detail. So all this isn't to say that meeting benchmarks 5, 6 and 7 are not possible right now. They are, but they do need a shift in thinking, as potentially do all the benchmarks. So the Careers and Enterprise Company, backed by the Gatsby Foundation, have produced a new resource, Careers in Context, a can-do guide, which is filled with benchmark-specific COVID-19 context-relevant resources. There's a mouthful. It has a lot of support in there and a lot of examples of good practice, including some from Ryan, who you're going to hear from after this. So do watch out for this on our website. The guide helps you to rethink or reprioritise in each benchmark in this current situation in order to become potentially more flexible and creative in your approach towards how your careers guidance programmes are delivered. This positive approach to the benchmarks is crucial, as the Gatsby benchmarks have not changed, and neither has the expectation that they remain a framework for good career practice. Whether as part of an interim visit or a full-blown inspection, Ofsted will be looking to see how your schools and colleges are adapting to suit the changing needs of your cohorts, regardless or indeed as a direct result of COVID. So the Can-Do Guide is just part of a suite of free resources and support that the Careers and Enterprise Company has been delivering over recent months. Hopefully you're aware of the majority of these, but if you're not, the links are to all of them from this slide. So we began with our Work It videos, a series of videos from young people talking about their routes into work, which are a really useful thing you can use within tutor times or assemblies or however you're managing to deliver careers education at the moment. We had My Week of Work back in June as a sort of interim way of offering something towards a virtual work experience. That is being utilised now by a lot of schools, and they're developing their own models as a result of that. And we're hoping to build on that in the coming year. My choices was all around transition projects. And again, people are using that resource and developing it to support students with transition throughout this year. I've mentioned a couple of times our benchmark masterclass webinars. We've had one on benchmark 1 and benchmark 4, which seem to be really important right now in terms of embedding careers in the curriculum. We have a brand new searchable resource directory, which is an awful lot better than our previous one. And it's having new resources uploaded onto there every couple of weeks. And it's been met really, really well out in the field. The Careers and Context Guide, which I've just spoken about. And last week we launched a primary careers platform, which could be potentially really useful for you if you did want to link in with some of the feeder primaries, those of you in an 11 to 16 school. We've currently got a physical resource being sent out to all SEND schools to highlight all the support that's available for SEND specifically. And we're also about to launch a SEND employer project, which is a project that's going to go out to employers to support them to understand how they can work more appropriately with students with SEND, either in a SEND school or in a mainstream school. That will be available as well for you if you're having difficulty getting employers to engage and support with your SEND students with SEND. So we certainly have an awful lot further to go on our journey to move everyone from simply thinking in terms of ticking a box to achieve the benchmarks or to please Ofsted. We want to ensure that careers education is not simply hitting the benchmarks whilst completely missing the point. We want all education leaders to see careers education as an entitlement, not an extra, to understand the potential impact of careers education and on all aspects of school or college life, the impact on motivation, engagement, attendance, and ultimately attainment, and the lifelong success of young people. One of our network head teachers recently said that they feel that the role of the careers leader is more important than ever at this time. They said it's a role that's growing arms, legs, and wings. And together, I think we can really build on the momentum created by the current situation to ensure that the role of the careers leader is truly recognised, that careers education is valued and embedded, and all young people are prepared and inspired for that fast changing world of work. Thank you.